Hey, I'm Dr. Lance Na with the Denali Consulting and 4% Breakthrough Communities. And I'm here today with Doctor of Physical Therapy, Stefan Zavalin. Welcome, Dr. Zavalin.
Thank you.
So you're welcome. So let's jump right into it. What's the mental battle like of going blind as you're accruing hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt attending physical therapy school?
Yeah, it's been an interesting journey through all of that, and where it kind of started is when I went to physical therapy school. A month in, I kind of had a little bit of pain in my eye, and so that's in a way that's where the mental battle began. And like most of us, I kind of went, it's probably not a big deal. It's a little light sensitivity. Let's just move on a little bit further. I'll be fine. A couple days later, okay, it's not getting better. Go to the doctor. I got misdiagnosed repeatedly as a result, and it actually took months and months and months until I finally got the right diagnosis. At this point, it was basically steroids that were kind of keeping all the symptoms down. And so that was the point months later that I found out, oh, I'm probably going to have to kind of back out of school because I can't even sit in a classroom. I can't look at a light. I can't look at a computer screen. I'm way too sensitive. I was walking around with an eye patch and sunglasses over the eye patch because all the light was just too much. And that it had to be the decision of, okay, I got to drop out and then come back who knows when. But that at that point, the mental battle had to be of, I got to get better. I got to figure out what this is. And what happened, because I was treated for a bacterial infection, a virus infection, but it turned out to be a parasite. And I don't want to say a common parasite, but it's relatively common. It's just that it presents like a virus. And so it's mistreated all the time. Even though the enzymes in our tears kill it very easily, most of the ophthalmologists I went to just said, yep, it's a virus. You're going to get better. And so in my head, I was saying, okay, I'm going to get better. I'm going to get better. Then when I finally went to the doctors that said, this is a parasite, that's when I went, oh no, okay, what in the world is my recovery going to look like? And so there was that long battle of figuring out how in the world do I make my eye feel better. The entire time, however, even though my parents were freaking out and a lot of my friends were, what's going to happen? In my head, I was thinking, I'm going to get better. It's going to get better. It'll be fine. One of the times at that point, I was still a lot more into music. And my dad said a thing where he said, even if you lose the eye or something happens, you can be a musician. And that helped, even though I was thinking, how in the world am I going to be a musician? But besides that point, that there was still a way, there was still an option. So fast forward to the beginning of the next year of the school year, they held my place in PT school. And by that point, I had a couple of corneal transplants, and then I had a cataract surgery because of all the medication that I had to be putting in. I developed a cataract. And I got back into school. That changed school entirely for me because I thought, okay, I have to get through this as fast as possible because at no point do I know, is this completely healed? What's happening? And as we kept going, things seemed well. And then about a year after that, it hit again. It was some of the pressure of in the eye. And as they tried to seal it up, they sealed it up too much effectively. And so the pressure pushed on the nerve and resulted in an optic nerve damage. And at that point, that's it. There's not much you can do. The incredibly lucky thing for me is this happened literally 2 days before I finished my first rotation in PT school. And so I was able to finish that off. And my second rotation, I got to do in a manual therapy clinic, which was all hands-on. And so I got to actually feel, and it was better than having to see it with my own eyes, if you would. But I could feel through a lot of the things. And that gave me a lot more confidence in, okay, I can do this. Our school was fantastic in terms of debt because they would repeatedly say, hey, we know this is costing you hundreds of thousands and you're accruing this debt. But once you get out there and once you become a physical therapist, you're going to pay it back. It's going to be fine. It'll be okay. Granted, maybe physical therapists aren't paid as glamorously as we want to be necessarily paid. And sometimes we look at, MDs and go, hey, this may seem unfair. But it's not as if the job market wasn't secure. I was able to get a job quickly. I was able to transition and use a lot of the hands-on things. And that's something that I consistently noticed, is that I could use the hands-on things and there was a way. And that was the biggest mental hurdle that I had to go over is, okay, I can't do it like the other people can, but that doesn't mean I can't do it. There's still a way.
I love your persistence and your perseverance, and I love that your other senses actually became better and improved. That's amazing. Tell me about last year, to fast forward a little bit, when you had COVID and you realized that you wanted to do something else with your life.
So interestingly enough, um, around that exact same time, maybe just 2 or 3 weeks before I got COVID, I finally got the diagnosis of you're legally blind. And so that really finally became, even though it was years and years, and that's more of the bureaucracy of getting disabilities labeled, but it finally happened. And at this point, I was trying to get accommodations through my work to say, hey guys, I really need more help from you guys because documentation and being on the computer is difficult for me because I'm blind. And we were in the midst of all of this, and then I get COVID. And having COVID itself, it wasn't very bad, but I had some complications because I had some heart pain. And so when I had to stand up and walk around, I could last maybe 15 minutes, which for a physical therapist, that's just not going to do. And I had to take FMLA. Now, months before that, I was having an idea of maybe a side hustle, another business idea of what I might do. Getting this extra month, and with the usual 2 weeks of quarantine, giving that 6 weeks sort of time, I finally got to the point where I said, I don't want to go back to the clinic. That's just not something that I necessarily want to do anymore. I think there's more to this that I can give in that sense. And so that it sort of jettisoned me into saying, okay, I think instead of going back and trying to fight this battle of, can you guys give me accommodations? What can I do? I'm going to start my own thing. I think there's something to it as well.
It's fearless. That's awesome. So go ahead, Stefan.
I can't lie, largely because of my wife at that time, fiance, because I actually proposed to her in the middle of having COVID, which was it was pre-planned. It was planned months in advance, and the fact that I had COVID it happened.
You stuck with your
I
plan.
couldn't
Good
do
for
it,
you.
but yeah, we stuck through it. There's a little video on it at one point in the video. She goes, "Can I hug you?" Because we were in quarantine. We didn't think we could. We risked it. She didn't get COVID, so it was all fine.
That's awesome. Well, we're glad you're here. And, we were brought together. Definitely shout out to Ryan Girardi, who, a mutual friend. And I guess you were connected to him through Sherry Traxler. So shout out to her as well. Some really incredible people. And, I know you have a lot of exciting things going on that we're going to talk about today. So, and I guess you kind of just gave it away, but congratulations on your recent marriage and just getting back from your honeymoon. How were your travels?
Oh, they were great. It's very interesting to see in terms of COVID how different things look depending on where you are. We were in Seattle, and we arrived first into Seattle and spent one day there, which it was great. Too many hills for us, but it was in the middle of Seattle because we were walking everywhere. And then we went off to Port Angeles and Portland, which were both beautiful cities. And we've talked about retiring somewhere there. And we decided we'd never been to Portland, and that was going to be the place for us. But a couple of weeks then, we returned back to Seattle. And all of a sudden, in order to sit in a restaurant, you have to show verification of vaccine or a negative COVID test. And it was just very interesting to see that. And then flying back to Nashville, where all of a sudden they're saying, you know what? We're giving up on mask mandates. They're no longer here. But I love traveling. I think traveling gives us a lot of perspective and ideas. It allowed me to also just rest because I took complete rest from running the business and doing anything. I even went to the effect of posting that in social media of saying, hey, don't expect anything from me.
Good for you. That's hard to
I'm
do.
completely disconnecting. And it was the beautiful thing about it was that I actually had some people say, hey, I saw that and thank you for doing that. Because it gave me this kind of courage to say, yeah, I'm also going to disconnect. And 2 weeks is a long time to just say, nope, not doing anything with my business, especially when you're still within that first year of it.
Oh, yeah.
It's definitely something where I said, no, I'm putting my foot down and setting this boundary.
Oh, good for
But
you.
yeah,
That's
it's
good for
definitely
you.
reinvigorating. And my favorite part is when I came back, I had so many inspiring thoughts about, oh, I'm going to do this and this and this in terms of the business as well.
And we're going to talk about it more, but with the boundaries, you made me think of someone I know who's preparing for a TEDx talk on exactly that topic. And I know you've got one in the works, so we'll talk about.
Hmm.
So, part of the reason I'm excited to talk to you is because you may be one of the few people who is just as excited or more excited, and passionate about posture and workplace health. It was one of the chapters in my book, and I know it's really your full focus. So where did that, spark from? Where did that all evolve from?
Right. So a lot of what kind of started initially for me is being in the clinic and seeing that I wanted more. I know that there's more that I could do. And I tend to be a very creative person in general. So whenever there were group activities in school or anywhere, I'm immediately the one that's, oh, let's make a video. Oh, I'll write a parody song or something like that. I felt that we could inspire and give information to a lot more people. And me doing reactive healthcare as a physical therapist of people coming in after they've already been sitting for a long period of time and after they have an injury and me trying to fix it there, we all know it's not as good in all realms of healthcare as proactive healthcare, where we could intervene before that even happens. And that's where I initially was having this idea of maybe it's a side hustle of where I do, maybe it's public speaking, maybe it's just creating some videos, whatever it may be. And then eventually, because of the COVID, I kind of got shot into, okay, let me intervene there. And so that's where I had to ask, well, what is my passion? Is it just fitness? Is that I'm trying to make people fitter? And truly, even from a very young age, from age of 5 or 6, my passion was always making people happy and making them smile. So great, there's plenty of people that do that, but my passion really is to make people healthy and to love life because I love life, and having other people that are energized and happy as a result of something I did is amazing to me. That's what I want to move forward to. And in the realm of the corporate wellness and just corporations in general, people don't like their jobs. People aren't always happy. And we can keep on telling them, hey, find purpose in your life and love your life. And they're wonderful speakers that do that. But I wanted to go in and actually talk to them and say, hey, can we change the work culture? Can we actually change how we work? Because right now, most of us know that going to work and sitting at a desk is not good for us. Is there a future where we can say that work is, well, at the very least, not bad for us? Maybe even good for us? That would be amazing if we can get to that point. But that all happens with changing the work. It's not about me just helping one individual at a time. And so I just had to have that bigger outreach. And so it's the bigger passion of trying to, as I've called it, make a movement around the workforce.
I love it. I love it. Tell us a little bit more about when you had your entrepreneurial seizure, because you've moved and pivoted from being a clinician to an entrepreneur. And, I know that feeling and how scary it is.
Sure. And there, as I was going through it, I knew that we do a lot of continuing education as physical therapists. And I knew, okay, maybe I also need to continue my education outside of physical therapy. And so learning to be a leader, to be an entrepreneur, inevitably came across this idea of, hey, you should do something for yourself. And it wasn't necessarily for me in the idea of money, of I'm going to start my own company or I'm going to do this because of money. I want to do it to solve a problem. Making money in the process is a wonderful thing. Don't get me wrong. But it was this idea of if I can do it myself, I don't have to necessarily answer to other people. Because when I was a clinician, I never wanted to be a clinic director. I thought that was way too much. And now that I see more and more of it, I understood why. Because a clinic director is more of a middle manager. If you're a part of a bigger company, there's usually higher ups that are kind of telling you what to do. And then there's your staff that's saying, hey, help us out here, which is
Right.
a tough place to be in. And I knew that I never wanted to be that. Neither did I feel that I wanted to specifically own my own clinic. And I think it's because it didn't allow me to be as creative as I wanted to be. This now, being an entrepreneur and saying, this is my business and I can do all these sorts of pieces of making videos, writing a book, giving a TEDx talk. this is amazing because it's still part of my business, but it allows me to be as creative as I want to be.
Very cool. So give us a little insight on some of the highest highs and the lowest lows so far and you've experienced in your entrepreneurial journey.
It's been interesting, and it's almost like every single project, large project, has had its own highs and its own lows. Overall, when I started, I was ecstatic. I was building my website by myself. I was thinking, this is going to be amazing. I'm going to succeed. It's going to be wonderful. As the months went on, I noticed that, well, it's just more of the same. I'm not seeing a lot of necessary progress. And I think that was possibly one of the first lows where I was going, do I even know what I'm doing? Surely I'm understanding it, but I thought I would at least have a couple clients at this point. And then I came across the TEDx course, which led into the TEDx coaching, and then eventually led into the audition and getting the TEDx talk. But
Congratulations.
and thank you. And that helped. That structure helped. But then on top of that, what helped even more by far is getting a business coach. Now, what initially happened is I tried a kind of a free resource where we went through a business plan. And I felt that the advice was good, but it didn't seem to really help me move forward. I implemented it and I saw the same sort of results. And part of that was undoubtedly time. So if you're given advice by your business coach, take time is the biggest thing. But then I really found somebody that we really vibed together very well. And I think it was that starting of that a journey that got me to the highest high, because it went from, I guess I'll do a TED talk. It'll be nice. Am I really good enough? To this is happening. It's for sure happening. I know when it's happening. I know how it's happening. It's going to happen. I don't care. I will do whatever it takes. And so taking all of that forward, and now that we're getting closer and closer to it, it's feeling more so that I'm getting higher and higher on it, because I know that I'm at the point. So coming up to January, I know that it will be a full-on success. It's been the same thing with my book, of where I started writing it. And I remember when I first finished it, I went, oh my goodness, nobody's going to want to read this. Who cares? And sending it out to my readers, I was thinking, they're not even going to get through it. What am I thinking? Am I really that much of a writer? And then getting a text from one of them 2 or 3 days later saying, hey, I'm halfway through your book. And I'm going, what? I'm surprised you got past the first chapter. I'm so happy. It's great. And I think it's being just consistently moving forward and being consistent with that. Because all of the times that I've ever felt low, that I just stuck to a very specific little habit, it ended up to where I went, oh, I finished the whole thing. So in an example of my book, when I tried to sit down and write all of the things at once and put in hours and hours of work into it, I was burnt out. And then it'd be another week until I got back to writing it. But when I sat down and said, you're going to do 1,000 words a day, that's it. That's all you're going to do. And as soon as you reach 1,000, you're going to step back. All of a sudden, my book was done within a month. When before I kept on thinking, struggling, should I not do it?
That was key for me,
good
just
enough?
being consistent, just getting a little bit done every day as well with the book.
And it's the same thing on editing. I kept on,
Yeah.
after I got the notes from the readers, I said, all right, I'm going to sit down and edit the whole book in one day. I never ended up doing it. And now I said a chapter a day, and then that works.
Pretty
And
amazing
it's frequency,
that.
consistency.
Yeah,
For
pretty
sure.
amazing, as we talked about earlier before the interview, that you're having a book and a TEDx talk coming out so closely. So yeah, give the audience some of your best takeaways and a little sneak peek to get everybody excited. And
Sure. I think the biggest takeaway, because the title of the TED Talk is Move More, Sit Less. And the interesting part is that I fought with my TEDx coach for a while to make sure that sit less was in there. My biggest move is that I understand that people are constantly almost hit over the head with this idea of you need to move more, you need to exercise more, you're not moving enough. And I think that the mindset of moving more is only going to lead to burnout, because we're constantly told that we need to do more of this, more of that, more of this, more of that. And I say instead, can we try to shift the mindset to sitting less? So that may be standing at your desk. The result is really the same. You are going to have more movement, but instead of thinking I should move more and get up more and do more things, you're thinking I should just sit less. I should do less of this one thing. And it's a similar thing that we can see for entrepreneurs and other things as well. Distractions. My phone is sometimes an issue. And the question isn't always, can I be more productive? Can I be less distracted? It will lead to more productivity, which is going to be great. But the action is actually just taking away the distraction, which is going to help me out there. In general, when people ask, what are some of the great things that I can do for myself, is take breaks about every 20 to 30 minutes. And when we say take breaks, I worry that people think movement breaks mean exercise. And exercise is just a small portion of movement. And picking up something from the ground, that's still squatting. Your body doesn't go, oh, nope, didn't do a proper squat. Sorry, doesn't count as movement. It's still movement. So finding those ways of whether it's doing something with your kids, whether it's just doing chores around the house, these are all movements, and we can insert them, especially now with remote work and hybrid work models. We can insert it throughout our day to get that movement in and stay healthier. So it's not about doing more exercise. It's about sitting less.
And I love taking away the distraction. That's perspective and paradigm I'm going to try to use. I don't know if you're familiar with Indistractable by Nir Yao. It's a great book. You'll have to check it out. You'll love it. It's really just a lot of pearls on avoiding the distractions, especially with today's world. So yeah. Anything else that we didn't cover that you want to talk about? And I definitely want to make sure everyone can know how to see your TEDx talk, get your book, follow you on socials and all places. But yeah, anything else that we didn't talk about that you really want to share with everyone?
I kind of touched a little bit on a couple of these things, but the takeaways that I always talk about is frequency and consistency. And this, the more and more that I go through these various things of being an entrepreneur, being healthy, be it just having the mental mindset of things, frequency and consistency. I have yet to find where it doesn't truly work in order for you to succeed. We live in this society of instant things and constantly grabbing things, and it happens right away. Frequency and consistency. Start out slow, build up from there. Because it's so easy to burn out and compare yourself to how everybody else is going and how fast they're doing things. It's not quite as important. That can be for your health. That can be for your business. It's all of these things that I'm seeing consistently. In terms of reaching out to me, Stefan Zavalin, and that's basically across all of the social medias. So Instagram, Stefan.Zavalin. TikTok, Stefan.Zavalin. I believe also Twitter, maybe Stefan Zavalin. I don't think they allow the period. And then Stefan.Zavalin at my website, which is ltmmtl.com. And that's where you can see some more of the articles or videos if you're interested of the things that I do and talk about. And there are plenty of free videos on there as well. And I love questions. I always feel like people don't ask enough questions because they may feel like, oh, I'm bothering them. No, about anything, physical therapy or whatever else you might have. Questions are fantastic.
And who would be your, ideal audience? Who are you really serving?
Sure. When it comes down to it, I'm truly serving that middle manager, the person that struggles really the most, the one that you are trying to appease both your staff and then you have higher ups. Because what I am trying to help you do is, yes, you're making people healthier, but you're making them more productive. And so everybody wins. And that's who the TED Talk is great for. So if you're not a middle manager, if you are an employee and you're thinking, how can I help my employer do this better? Share the TED Talk with them. It doesn't mean they won't listen, because they're the ones that are going to get all the benefit from it.
That's fantastic. And yeah, so we have Dr. Stefan Zavalin's book and his TED Talk ideally coming out early January. So be sure to follow him for all of that information. And definitely, I saw it during the pandemic. There are so many posture related injuries, and especially when people were working from the homes and working on soft couches and beds. I mean, my kids were trying to do their classes in bed all day. There were a lot of, I was in the clinic still treating during that time, and there were a lot of injuries. And if we can just really get to the root cause and share this message a little bit more, it'll help a lot of people. So I'm happy to share your message as well. And yeah, thank you so much for being here today. And look forward to the talk, the book, and just keeping in touch with everything.
Absolutely. My absolute pleasure. I love talking about this stuff.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Stefan.